Time now for the voice of the land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Always Positive Jay.
Boy, oh boy, it feels good to be back with Voice of the Land this week. We got Always Positive Jay and Ryan Mosser. You know him better at Dynasty Clee, does all of the Browns follow trains. And, of course, our producer extraordinaire, Peter Tillip, and his son, Jacob. Has Jacob started school yet, Peter?
Yeah, he actually just went back yesterday.
And what grade is he in now?
He's a senior.
Oh, my God. How long have I known you now?
Well, let's see. I think he was in 8th grade when 7th grade, he says.
7th grade when we first started.
Because when he was in 8th grade, he helped with the football games before he started marching band.
It's crazy. It really is crazy how time flies. Like I was in Niagara Falls on Sunday. No, I was not in Canada. Everybody asked me if I was in Canada. I only said hi, Canada, because I could see Canada on the other side. But the reason why I went to Niagara Falls is because we went to watch one of my former soccer players, Annabella Storr, who's playing Division I soccer now with Mercyhurst. They moved up from D2 to D1. They were in Niagara. It's probably one of the only Sundays I'm going to get to go to. They play on Thursdays at 1 o'clock and Sundays at 1 o'clock. Like that's difficult to do, and they have very few Sunday home games. Like Erie would be a great, easy drive for all of us. 4 hours wasn't too bad to go to Niagara Falls, but I coached her when she was 8 years old, and now she is a freshman in college. Like take time with your kids, take time with your loved ones, because time really is fleeting and just a construct. But
spending time with your kids is like the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I went home and spent time with little Link before coming out here. It was like the cutest, messy spaghetti night around the house. Like, I can't be mad when he starts throwing food because he just like smiles at you with the cutest little smile and everything. I mean, it's just, it's the absolute.
Have two kids, and then you don't think it's so cute.
Well, don't worry. We plan to have more than just one. That's for sure. But guys, I wanted to get the conversation sports-wise started with the Browns. And speaking of time, there's about a little over 2 weeks now before they really get things going against the Cowboys. And today, last day of training camp, Deshaun Watson starts practice, doesn't finish practice. The left tackles, they're starting to work out on the field, but still in T-shirts and shorts. And Denzel Ward officially has a concussion. He was in concussion protocol, but
it's his 5th now.
It's his 5th. He was wearing a guardian cap. We'll get into that a little bit more because I was actually there the day that it happened and kind of what I saw that day. And then you have Pierre Strong going out in an ambulance after Deontay Foreman did earlier on in camp and when they were down in West Virginia. Guys, where's your excitement level right now with the Browns when we continuously have stories like that come out?
It's the excitement's always going to be the same because it's the beginning of the season. You never know. I think it's going on with a lot of the teams in the NFL. Like the 49ers, I don't think couldn't even play a preseason game because they had too many injuries. Like, I don't know. They got to figure out what they're going to do with this preseason and how they're going to ramp up because it seems like guys are getting hurt more than before. And I don't know. Your body's got to get calloused to used to being able to taking hits. You can't just go out and play football and think your body's going to be used to taking that kind of abuse. It's a callus you have to build up in your body. But excitement level, yeah, that's still the same. Like, I'm pumped. Like, I can't wait for the season. But, I mean, I ain't going to lie. The beginning of this season and how everything's going is so, like, I'm about to be married and going to Aruba. Like, and then the Brown season starts. I get married. Then we go to Aruba, and it's just like, bam, bam. Like, this time right now is flying for me right now. Like, this whole month is going, like, the last 3 months of just, whew, and I
mean, it'll kind of be the theme of the night with time flying because we're going to have two guests on tonight. We got
crazy loaded show today.
Tyler Danburg coming on, Ohio State student play-by-play for Radio Network and Big Ten Plus, and, of course, Jake Trotter, teammate at ESPN Cleveland, and senior college football writer based here in Cleveland. I know he's been to Columbus once or twice, and we're going to talk to him about the new college football playoff. So that all coming down the pipe. But Ryan, it's it feels like, I don't know why, but it feels like this training camp period has been longer than any I can really remember, just because it doesn't really feel like positive things are coming out of it.
You know what's funny? Sorry,
You're
Ryan.
good.
I feel like the complete opposite. I swear. Like I
Really?
feel like I'm like, man, it's already the season is starting. Like this, like it
I
has
mean-
a lot to do with because a lot of the training camp is out in
Yeah.
the Greenbrier. So it's like training camp here is so short. I didn't even get to go. That's probably another reason why. Yeah, it felt short to me, to be honest.
I actually agree with Jay. I felt like it's going by quick. I'm excited for the season to start.
I guess maybe I'm too
Yeah.
like too ingrained in it, like all the stories and all that kind of
Maybe,
stuff
yeah.
right now. And like I have to hear it every day and like every step of the way, like every press conference before practice and after practice, and
Right.
comments made at night or on other shows and things like that. Like it just
Yeah, you're around it nonstop. And like,
Yeah. I mean, there are things that concern me. I mean, the offensive tackle position right now is very concerning. Don't know when Wills is going to come back, and then when he does come back, what do we have there? I'm not too sure it's anything too great, to be honest, but hopefully it's great. With Watson, in terms of him being, out today because of his shoulder, I mean, I could consider that a blessing in disguise. If he's not 100% comfortable, like I said previously, I don't want him out there. I mean, I personally don't want him out there, period. I don't think it's worth it. But in terms of just excitement, I think I'm really excited. It's next man up. I think that we'll be ready, but the first game is going to be really tough. So
I mean, the good thing is the Cowboys is the first game, and they
Yeah.
got their own kind of mess over
they
there.
do, but it's a good team. So good defense.
Oh yeah, there's no schlubs by any. There's no real schlubs in the NFL.
Right.
Like they're all good teams, and anybody can beat you any given day. But the Dallas Cowboys are one of the elite regular season teams. I don't know about their playoff record, but
look, I know you should be concerned anytime someone is shut down in practice, especially a quarterback. But if you think about it, I feel like Deshaun has been at every practice that they've had him do. Like the veteran days off, those types of things. I haven't heard much of those, and he's been full go in practice. Now, has he been in a game yet? No, and I feel like he should. But if there is any level of concern, even like 1%, I'm sure he won't play Saturday because you want him to get ready for 2 weeks from that point. And you're playing in Seattle. It's 7 o'clock Pacific time, but 10 o'clock here. Luckily, they're going out tomorrow. They're going to get acclimated to the time change, all of those types of things. And you still have 2 weeks before you play your next game. But like, I don't understand how that game got scheduled that way. But I do feel like he needs to play. And hearing that today and hearing Coach Stefanski, who doesn't give you a lot, he talked about how like he could have kept going through it. He just mentioned a little arm soreness, like general soreness, like any, quarterback, you're throwing a football a lot. Pitchers, you're throwing the ball a lot. And arms get tired, arms get sore. Everybody's going through some soreness and stuff. So if it felt okay for them to just, hey, precautionary, just shut him down. Let's, make sure we don't overdo his arm because we are still bringing him back. There's concern, but not as much as I have with the tackle position. And it's just, you see tape after tape after tape, or being out there seeing as great of a defensive line as we have, and even without some of our top starters out there, even our guys are getting around too easily. Minnesota guys got around too easily, and that makes, especially with a quarterback that, yeah, he can run, but he can't be touched. So it's like he's trying to focus on throwing the ball and working on different throwing angles, all of those types of things. These guys are coming around, and as soon as he's ready to throw, they're right there, So, look, if they can figure out the tackle position, this team should have a good season, Ryan.
I agree. It is concerning, but we need to figure out what's happening at that position. We need to do it quickly. So
that's for damn sure.
Yeah. So a lot of injuries going on there. We'll continue that conversation, but we do want to bring in our first guest of the night in Ohio State, the Ohio State University student expected to graduate in 2025. Does play-by-play for their radio network, Big Ten Plus, and has been working as an intern and also up in the booth with Logan Petoskey who's a great play-by-play man himself, getting a chance to see firsthand the brilliance of Travis Bazzana. Tyler Danburg, thank you so much for joining us tonight, taking some time out to join us on this loaded show. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys. I'm excited. Love the Wycliffe High School t-shirt, by the way, Kevin, looking great. But no, I'm excited to be here with you guys.
I'm a proud Wycliffe alumni of 2009, and then have coached soccer, travel, middle school, high school, all levels in Wycliffe. But now, of course, pursuing this career, don't have as much time to do that. But my wife has told me that when our son is old enough to play and our kids are old enough to play, when they play soccer, there's going to be one person coaching them, and it's supposed to be me, even though I didn't want to. I personally didn't want to, but I see her point. So I will be back coaching when my kids are old enough.
That's awesome. And that's what, my parents did. My dad coached our travel soccer team and baseball team. So there's nothing like it. You're going to have a blast.
Mentioning your dad, the apps that will they age people's faces or make them younger. I swear I'm looking at your dad through one of those apps right now. You are a spitting image of your dad, man. Hey, that's good, man. He's a good looking guy. You guys good looking people over there. You're good. You're good to go.
And I'm sure he could say if he had a nickel for every time that someone said that, he'd probably have a good set of money right now getting himself going in the industry. Well, Tyler, we want to bring in for two different angles. And, of course, being in Ohio State and kind of being in the student realm, but also from a media standpoint. But you're also working with the captains, and you've had a chance to see Tyler Bazzana. And I know he's had a pretty good stretch lately. Seems like he really is fitting in well at the high A level. Do you see him having the ability to play with Akron at all coming down the stretch of baseball?
There definitely is, because Travis Bazzana as a baseball player is as good as it gets. I would even make the argument that Travis Bazzana, the person, is even better. I think also, too, it just comes into the postseason, because right now Akron is winning their second half of their division in the Eastern League, but also Lake County has already clinched a playoff spot. So no matter where Travis is going to end up in the middle of September, he's going to be playing playoff baseball. So I think there's always a possibility, because of the way he's starting to get acclimated to the high A level. There's definitely a shot that he could be up there. And if not, I mean, he has really found a nice niche in Lake County. It's been a great way for him to face advanced pitching, but also not to fast track his start too much. He's been awesome about hanging out with the guys. He always talks about getting food with his teammates, and he gets along with them really well. I'm sure you might have seen there was a cool picture with him and fifth-ranked prospect in the Guards organization, Ralphie Velasquez, and they're just posted up in the dugout posing for the camera. So it seems like he has really gelled with the guys, and it's great to see.
It's always he fell into a fantastic position. It's not all the time that the number one pick goes to the number one team in the AL. That's very rare. And you just mentioned how teams, you don't want to fast track them, because as soon as we draft them, everyone goes, well, we have a second baseman. And I'm like, well, let's just relax. Let him develop for a little bit. Let's not rush and push Gimenez out of the second base there. How long do you think it will take him to see him in the major leagues? Is there a chance possibly at the end of next year, or you think it's still 2 years away?
I don't know what the ETA is, but what I can tell you is that because of how driven he is and how routine oriented he is, it could be sooner rather than later. I mean, he wants to make contributions, as does anybody in that spot. What I can tell you is that he is constantly putting in the work. In his first week in Lake County, he started off going straight to the big league club and working out that week when Arizona was in town, and he was just getting a feel for Cleveland, the organization, and meeting new people. Then he went to Lake County, and after the All-Star break, he started out going to Great Lakes, the high affiliate of the Dodgers. He came back to Lake County, and that week you can just see how deliberate he is with everything he does. There's just so much intention from his routine on deck to when he gets to the ballpark. That first week he was there, he would go and do defensive drills immediately with Cleveland's 24th ranked prospect Alex Mooney. He would work with infield coordinator JB Airy. He would work with Travis Fryman and John McDonald and whoever the Guardians organization was bringing in from the player development system. And it could be 6-7 hours before the game. There's a chance that Travis is out there taking grounders or he's out there taking ground balls from a machine. He just has so much intent with the way he goes about his craft.
Talk to me about Bazana's as a person, because you mentioned, equally as good of a player as he is a person. I saw the videos early from the captain's social media of him spending an hour or two with fans and signing autographs and understanding his spot and all that. He seems like the perfect fit for an organization like this that is so family, good person oriented.
Yeah, it's an organization that prides itself on character. And that's exactly what Travis Bazana brings. That was his debut. The game got called due to wet field conditions.
We were actually
we
there
were at the game.
Yeah. Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was messaging you. I was we were all hanging out with Omar and Carlos Baerga for their meet and greet there.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was that Tuesday night game. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you were able to get that in outside of the game, of course. But did you stick around to see him sign for almost an hour?
So I was the last one there from the show, and we only had to leave because my 1-year-old was just not having it. And they kept saying, like, they're pushing back the time. And we felt a little bit better about leaving because we don't like to leave games ever. My wife and I are as diehard as it comes. If we're going to a game, we're watching it as far through as we possibly can. He just wasn't having it. But as soon as I got home, and about 30 minutes later, I saw the videos going up of him spending time. And that really caught my eye more than what he does at the plate. I don't know why, but that moment, that social media post has really stuck with me with Bazana.
That's everything you need to know about him because he's that way with the kids. He's that way with the coaching staff and the support staff. He's been just like that to Logan Petoskey and myself, and he's been really gracious about his time and has done a lot for us and has done a lot for the media. And I mean, there's a lot of pressure that comes with being the number one pick, and he definitely he seems like a guy that embraces it a little bit, but it's a lot. And somehow when he goes out there, all is right in the world. He's reached base in, I believe, 12 of his last 13 games now. He was the first number one pick since Royce Lewis in 2017 to have a 10-plus game on base streak in his first 12 minor league games. And Royce Lewis did that in rookie ball. Travis Bazana is doing that at the high A level. Two great players in Royce Lewis. I mean, he's like lightning anytime he's out there. He's a heck of a ball player. So he's done a lot on the field, and he's done a tremendous amount off it too.
Where I think he's going to help, and if he develops to be the player I think he's going to be, that you think he's going to be, is his character, like how he talks. He's got an Australian accent. And I think that's going to be huge for baseball, believe it or not, because unfortunately, a lot of our stars don't speak English all that well and aren't all that comfortable. Like, you don't see Jose on the camera that much is because he's not all that comfortable speaking English. And even though I heard from people like you told me that he can talk, he can do it.
These guys can talk. They're
not real comfortable. And I know Americans love an Australian accent. It is what it is. We're attracted to it. It's always been like that. And if he can get to that level, and he is not like Michael Trout Mike Trout don't like the camera, but
Trout. Oh, all right.
Mike Trout doesn't like the camera.
Mike Trout's a great ball player. Michael Trout's on the sidelines most of the time.
I think he could be one of the faces of baseball one day, just because he literally is the first Australian that I know of that'll be playing Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and you hear of guys like Peter Moylan and Ryan Roland Smith, who's two great broadcasters in baseball now and media personalities. And those are the two guys that immediately come to mind to play in the show. But to be the first Australian-born number one pick, that holds a lot of weight. And and Travis Bazzana has said in countless different interviews, he wants to be that person. He wants to be that person that helps bring Australian baseball to the forefront. And he's a big believer in playing for a cause and playing for a purpose, and that purpose is to change people's lives and bring baseball into the spotlight in Australia.
Yeah, because I grew up in the 90s watching baseball players were rock stars back then. A-Rod, half the 90s, almost all the players on the Indians teams in the 90s, pretty much. You know, you just had these names. They were monstrous names. Everyone knew. Ken Griffey Jr. I could keep going and going if I wanted to. And we kind of lacked it with someone that everyone can connect to and you hear from. You know what I mean? Like there hasn't been one for quite a while now. And I think he has that ability to do that.
Yeah, there are definitely guys that have kind of that it factor, and there are a lot of different players in baseball right now in the majors that just have that, and you can tell they have that.
Like Judge right now would probably be the face of baseball.
Agreed.
Even though we hate him, but
yeah, I was gonna say
sports hate him.
Yeah, let's not bring up that name. But we're talking about names that we know, Tyler. Before we switch gears to Ohio State and just kind of what vibes you're kind of getting around not just football but the athletic program, because I know that they have strong programs across the board. But names that we should know in Lake County in the minors that people probably don't know. Like, we're keeping an eye on it and all of that. When I say we, I mean just the general public that loves baseball. But who are those guys to keep an eye out for as the next few years go on?
Definitely a couple guys to keep an eye out. Guys that started off in Lake County and have now progressed. CJ Cathis has become a crown jewel, third-round pick last year out of Miami, Florida, and he started the season hot. He has not looked back. He came in unranked as a Cleveland prospect. He's now number 5 in the organization.
Wow.
Number 7. He is sensational. I think Alex Mooney, he's a 7th-round pick last year out of Duke. He's still with the Captains, and he's got a little bit of an it factor to him. You can sense he's been scuffling a little bit at the plate, but you can tell he's got a little bit of a Bobby Witt in him, honestly. And it might just be the long hair. It might just be kind of the swag and the mannerisms that he brings to the table. But he's got pop. He can take anything to the pull side like it's nobody's business. Current AA Akron Rubber Duck, Cooper Engel, my goodness, he's a catcher, and all he does is get on base. He set the Captain's franchise career record for OBP with a minimum of 300 at-bats. He's the real deal. A guy that when you watch him play, I'm sure you guys might have gotten a little bit of it from the small sample size that he played at short when you guys were there. Keep an eye on a shortstop by the name of Angel Hanau. He leads the Cleveland farm system in hits. And guys, he's got a little bit of Lindor to him. He's got the big smile. He's got the blonde mohawked hair. He's got some swag to him, but a super humble, down-to-earth guy. And all he does is rake. On the pitching side, there are a bunch of different guys that you can choose from. Currently with the Captains right now, there's a non-drafted free agent out of East Carolina by the name of Carter Spivey. And the guy has just been nails all year long. He's friends with Gavin Williams. And then the last one, because we got to mention him, and he's starting right now actually, is Matt Tugboat Wilkinson. He came into Lake County at the end of May. A lot of aura around him just because of the way he pitches, his competitive level. He's got such a dominating presence on the mound, and he's got this fastball that baffles people because of the arm slot and release point, and it's not necessarily fast, but it's deceptive. let's put it this way. He's second in minor league baseball in strikeouts. He leads minor league baseball in ERA. The last minor league pitcher to do both those things, lead in strikeouts and earned run average, was Josh Beckett in 2002.
Wow, I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bring him
man,
up.
blast from the past.
And he leads the league also in the best nickname.
Oh,
Yeah, Tugboat's awesome.
Yeah.
I have kept my eye on Tugboat Wilkinson because I was just scrolling through Twitter one day. I came across first highlight before he moved up with the captains. I don't know, just something resonated with me. And you're talking about flair and swag and all those types of things, Tyler. Like, I feel like to get baseball, America's pastime, really connected with the current generation, like there's got to be more influx of the swag, the flair, all of those types of things. Like, yeah, you don't want to show guys up, but let these guys be themselves.
Yeah, it's confidence in yourself. Like, how can you not love seeing Matt Wilkinson take the mound? He gets his signs and he wiggles his fingers like Ricky Henderson about to steal second. Like, he just has something about him on the mound, and I think it's not swag where you're trying to show people that you're better than them. It's swagger, like as a competitor. Like,
I did that, by the way.
That confidence.
Growing up, I definitely did the finger swiggle like Ricky Henderson for sure. Yeah, I mean, just like you're saying, like John Kenzie Noel right now, when he crushes one of those home runs and he just flips that bat right up. I love it. It's awesome. And for all the old timers that don't, get over it.
Well, that's what the kids see, though. You were emanating someone you saw as a kid. Like, I don't feel like kids get enough of who these guys are and allowing them to be themselves, because we're trying to peg baseball back into the 1900 version of it. It's 2024. We need to bring some of that, and I think that there is a way to balance both of those. Tyler, before we do get you out of here, a couple things on Ohio State. I know that's on paper, the football team looks great. Everybody wants to talk about them. Just first off, vibes that you are getting around the program. It seems like all these guys are saying the right things. Are they going to be ready to do the right things?
It really seems like it. The first two words that come to mind after spending last couple of days in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, just listening to what a lot of the players and staff had to say, is dialed in. There's just a different vibe. And you kind of got that at Big Ten football media days in Indianapolis at the end of July. Like, there's just a different feeling. And I think the biggest thing was leadership. I think because of how many guys came back for what Ryan Day said, for a greater cause, for the greater good. Like, that just tells you how mentally, emotionally, and physically driven these guys are. Larry Johnson, the defensive line coach today, he said at his media availability is that the difference this year in the D line he was talking about, but probably on a larger scale, he said the difference this year is just leadership. The Jack Sawyers and the JT Tuimoloau's have been here one more year. They came back when they didn't have to. Tyleik Williams, the defensive tackle, came back when he didn't have to. So I think everybody's just locked in. Like, they're definitely loose. They're confident, but also too, there is a lot that is driving this team.
Yeah, and in terms of the leaders, the captains were just announced, what was it, yesterday, with Emeka and Travion and Cody Simon, and who's the last guy?
Jack Sawyer.
Yeah, Sawyer. Obviously Cody Simon in the block O. From the top down, leadership is impeccable. You see Mbuka and Henderson all the time with their Bible studies, and they lead those all the time. And there just seems like a different, like you said, a different vibe on campus, a different aura. I don't know how to explain it, but it seems like they're not only are they tuned in, but they're also just like one single unit, which is really cool. So.
Oh, you're so right. You're so right. And I believe that there are a lot of people in that room. Like, it's a locker room built up of leaders. I think when you listen to tight end G. Scott Jr. talk,
right,
you get the sense that he's got a vocal presence in that locker room. Like, there's just a lot There's a lot that's going on, and it seems, what drives great teams is a common purpose. And again, we're going to get to see more of what these guys have to say throughout the year. And the beat writers like Jake Trotter, who's awesome, by the way. Well, he's been around more throughout the summer, so he can tell you better than anybody that there's definitely that energy. But you can sense that there's just one sole purpose that's really guiding this team, and
sure.
and that's to go as far as they can and be at the top of the mountain as this 17-week season is coming to a close.
How much importance has been put onto this Michigan game?
Got to get through Oregon first.
You got to get through a lot, but right now,
yeah.
and everyone knows there's the game. And Ryan Day, what is it, the last 2 or 3 is lost, three, which is odd. I'm not used to this. I'm getting kind of annoyed by this. No, I have family. My dad has 5 brothers, 4 sisters. They're all from Michigan. I'm the outcast on that side of the family, and I love it. But they got to beat them, man. And I feel like that team, especially the seniors that came back, they wanted more than even we do.
Right.
Yeah, they're not afraid to speak about it. I mean, Denzel Burke, All-American cornerback, who also did not need to come back this year. Gold pants is what he said is one of the driving forces and one of the reasons as to why he came back. There's no doubt that this is probably in the back of a lot of these guys' minds. I think that they're big on 1 week at a time, and it's an old adage, but again, it can help gauge at how teams like to approach the weekly basis. I think for the number 2 team in the country, that's important because you don't want to take anybody lightly. But there are the Oregons, there are the Penn States at Penn State, and there's obviously the final Saturday in November that really play a major role. And again, there's a chance that Ohio State and Michigan could play 3 times this year.
It's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is.
It's like I don't want it to happen, but I do want it to happen.
No way.
Yeah, it's tough. And they
as long as we go 3-0, I want it to happen.
That would be huge. And I think there's and you guys have been around it all your lives. Yes, they could play 3 times in a row, but that doesn't diminish the importance of that first all-important game, right?
It
Not
doesn't.
at all.
It does not, because that's what sets you up. And I mean, if they are the top 2 teams at that point and could both still go to the Big Ten championship game, guess what? You still want the top spot going there. There is pride in that to win the top spot. I know that, here Jay and I kind of have a soft spot. We're looking out for Demarion Witten for when he kind of builds a role down there, just a freshman this year, just because we are friends with his dad, and I'm going to be doing some high school stuff with him as well. But Tyler, great insight. We would love to have you back on
Definitely
again as we go, because I'd love to hear more about Ohio State athletics, because I'm in Ohio State all the way. Scarlet and Gray bleeds through me. I just didn't, I almost went there, but Cleveland State had a better teaching program, and guess what? I'm not even teaching anymore. So, it's funny how things work out. But Tyler Danburg, play-by-play Ohio State athletics student there as well. Good luck in your senior year, and thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you so much, guys. And again, I appreciate you having me on. And football gets a lot of the love, and deservedly so. But if you get the chance to take a listen or watch or come out to a game for any of the other sports, women's soccer is ranked 18th in the country. The women's hockey team has won 2 of the last 3 national championships.
You're preaching to the guy right here, man. Kevin is just loving this right now.
We cover any and all sports. So, Tyler, please, we will reach back out to you maybe in a month or 2 as fall really is going and other sports are kind of getting their workout started for the winter. We would love to hear about all the sports because we cover it all here on this show, and everybody deserves the love. Tyler Danburg, once again, it's only been on once, but already feel like you're a friend of the show, just like your dad. So thank you so much for taking the time tonight.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That is Tyler Danburg, student and broadcaster at Ohio State, has worked with the Lake County Captains. Great insight there.
Definitely.
Hell yeah.
Not even he's just getting around the football team as he's getting back to school, but the amount of knowledge about the minor league system with the Guardians and just the theme there was character, good character guys that care about the craft that they are there for. You see a lot of number one picks, and even if it's Major League Baseball and you don't keep an eye on draft picks all the time, like they just like, I'm sure Paul Skeens had the kind of swag about him that like, yeah, like I'm not going to be down here very long. I'm going to be in the majors. Like I'm still putting in the work, but to hear that kind of story behind the scenes of how much work Bazzana's putting in and how much he recognizes more people are coming out to games because they want to see him play. He's trying to help bridge that gap between player and fan, but also shed a light on his teammates as well, working out with them all the time.
I mean, that just worked out perfect for the Guardians to draft him because he's a hell of a just ball player as is. And then they get the exact kind of character that they want. And you know why that's important?
It's contagious, bro.
It is.
It's contagious.
Tell him. Get on our Jarvis.
Well,
But
and
it's what I was just saying is it starts from the top, dude. And it's Jose Ramirez. He's the character. He's the hard worker. When all these guys, when Travis Bazzana comes in town and he said, and he sees Jose outworking even all the other kids and he's the best player on the team, that says something. It teaches you like, all right, we're all going to have to bust our ass. And that's why our team is has the best record in the AL right now, even though our starting pitching has been up and down and hurt, and we don't have that ultimate payroll that all these other guys have, but we're still here. We keep winning, and it's because of the character of these ball players, man.
what really told me that what type of player Bazzana was, and like, yeah, you don't want to see him arguing with an umpire right after his first at bat. He strikes out in his first at bat, and he is frustrated that that call was made.
Yeah,
like he cares. He wants
you saw
to
his
have
face.
success.
I was face to face. He was not happy in the dugout for sure. I was right there taking photos. He was pretty upset. So,
but that's what you want. Like some guys, they're like, oh well, I just struck out. You know, we're 63 and
you don't
whatever.
like to settle for anything.
no,
man.
that's
No.
passion, man.
Yeah, it's passion, and that is as much as people may get on the owners and the Dolans and stuff like that. The focus to end the drought of a World Series, like the work that goes on behind the scenes and the culture that has been established, built, maintained from top down, and I
Yeah.
mean big leagues down all through all the minors. The standards stay the same. You better make your playoffs. You better be fighting for whatever championship is out there. And that's what the big league club is trying to do. Are they getting beat by the Yankees tonight? Yes.
They're
but-
getting destroyed by the Yankees tonight.
yes. But
Never
Don't
count
even
them out.
look at the score no more. Don't even bother.
the key
It'll
for
just make you mad.
the key for the big league team is to start winning series. They have a chance to do that tomorrow by getting that first one last night. Yes, maybe the emotional hangover, whatever. Cantillo just struggling with that lineup. Like, there's going to be nights where that big lineup that they paid for is going to get you. But we have shown that, and this whole American League has shown, the door is wide open this year. Everybody, and this isn't an original take. A lot of people have said it, but it just echoes with me, and I want to repeat it. Every team has flaws.
Oh, yeah. There's no super team this year. The Yankees, they have flaws. The Dodgers, they have flaws.
Orioles
have flaws. Milwaukee has flaws.
I think most teams in the last 60 games, I heard they were about 500, every single one of them. So other than the Astros and Minnesota, but
And if you want to
Yeah.
say that, you want to say if the Guardians end up finding a way, you know, they continue to stay atop the Central and they win the Central, and you want to give them credit because you don't think the Central is very good. They're in a dogfight, and they're 20 games plus over 500. They're in a dogfight to win their division against two other teams. Detroit was in it for a while. You lead the Sox to the side, and I'm sure at some point they'll come back around just like every Central team always does. But this is a good division this year. You're going to have to earn it. If these guys want to win their division and more,
it's going to help. All this fighting is going to help a lot because once you get to the playoffs, you're already like playoff ready, dude. You've been grinding the whole year. So you're going to the playoffs. It's like, boom, let's just get into the playoffs and grind again for another few more months there.
but you also need to start turning a corner. I know that they've been struggling recently. It's not necessarily a players only meeting or anything like that. it's, guys just continuing to step up, guys that they have brought up, pitchers. There's got to be a collective, guys, we've been through some hard times right now, and it's good that we've gone through this in July and into August. But look, teams are right on our tails. We want this. We better show that we want this and go after it and have that same kind of energy that we just talked about with Bazana and a lot of the guys that are in this organization.
With all this panic, though, like, we're still 3.5 games ahead as of right now. We were that way 2 weeks ago when you said you weren't that worried about it. So, I mean, it's
right. I'm kind of like motivated,
right,
and like want to try to push that through the screen, this camera right now, into that. I'm not saying that they're not motivated, but like increase the level of motivation. Let's get back to who they were. I'm not. If I was pushing the panic button, I'd be like, eyes wide open, like, scream type face type thing. I'm not really pushing the panic button because I understand how a baseball season goes, but we are getting down to halfway through, past the halfway point of August. You got a month and a half left. At some point, like, you want to get back to somewhat of who you were to be playing some of your better ball going the playoffs. Those are the teams that usually make a run. That's why the Rangers did.
True.
That's why, anybody that wins the World Series, they're usually, even if they have a lull in the middle of the season, they start out hot, they finish strong, and that just goes through the playoff run.
Well, hopefully we're having a little technical difficulties, but kind of expect that with two guests coming on. So,
I mean, we'll work through it. And hopefully we are going to be joined by Jake Trotter, senior college football writer for ESPN. He is going to stay here in Cleveland. Of course, he covered Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma, did some college football before that, then came up here, did Browns coverage. He was the ESPN NFL Nation sports reporter for the Browns with ESPN, and now taking the next step forward and still works with us there at ESPN Cleveland. So we do welcome in Jake Trotter, senior NFL college football writer and teammate of mine at ESPN Cleveland. I don't know, Jake, if you knew you were going to see my face again tonight, but I gotta say, are you looking forward to judging some food tomorrow at the cook-off?
Yeah, I mean, Emmett's grilling is going to have to be really good for me to not just automatically side against him. So we'll have to see what he's got. I've been hearing about him on the grill for years now. It's hyped up beyond what I could even comprehend. It better live up to the hype or he's going to get penalized severely in the contest.
Yeah, I'm trying to finagle my way leaving work early so I can get down there and steal some of that food. I don't care who wins or not. I just want some free food.
Hey, if you get out of work early and you're one of the first 15, you have the chance to be a fan judge.
See, I don't want to be a judge, though, because what happens if I see a plate and I don't want to pull a Gerard and just because I don't like something and give him a 0? I'll never forget when Gerard did that. They gave him some like double twice baked potatoes or no, it was it wasn't it was
it was the
cucumbers.
Yeah,
and he's like, I'm not eating this. I don't eat that stuff. So he gave him a 0. I'm like, well, just because you don't like it, don't mean you gotta poorly score him.
And Gerard eats just about everything.
Yeah.
So
and tons of it.
Yeah. That's why it's good that Emmett's cooking and not judging a food contest, because he's like me and one of the pickiest eaters. But Jake, we do have you on because, and congratulations again, if I haven't said it enough to you about the new role with ESPN and getting back to the college football roots. I know you've been down in Columbus. We just had Tyler Danburg, who a student down there broadcasting and son of Curtis Danburg with the Guardians. He was saying that it feels like a different vibe down there this year with as much talent as they have on paper. He said the determination, the locked in level that this team is at, it's a different vibe down there. And in your time over the summer, is that the same kind of vibe that you got with this group?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't been there the last 2 or 3 years, but I can just tell you, talking to guys like Emeka, Sawyer, some of their older players on that team, and then Ryan Day as well. They have a chip on their shoulder, and not only that, I think the scars of the past, losing to Michigan 3 straight years, not winning a national championship, has really propelled a type of focus that they haven't had before, a type of commitment. And, it's all talk right now. Like, this is all going to be decided on the field this fall. And I'm sure they felt great about their leadership in the past and their offseason commitment. But when you combine the type of leadership it appears they have, and you talk to guys like Emeka, I mean, he sounds like Amari Cooper, just in terms of veteran locker room in the NFL type guy. And when you combine that with the talent that they have, and I'm not sure people realize how talented this Ohio State team is. You talk to scouts, and they talk about this Ohio State team as if just on paper, it's the best team that anybody has seen in the playoff era. And I'm not just talking about at Ohio State. I'm talking about in all of college football. What's more remarkable about that is they don't have CJ Stroud. They don't have Justin Fields. They don't have like a top 5 quarterback. They have an experienced player, Will Howard, who they're very excited about the way he's looked this preseason, especially compared to the way he showed up in the spring. But the fact that people are talking about this team that way, and they don't even have a Joe Burrow, I think speaks to just how talented they are across the board and the depth that they have at certain positions. So, listen, it's all on the line this year. I mean, there's no excuses. Nobody's going to tolerate in Buckeye Nation losing to Michigan again. The expectation is to win a national championship, and I can tell you, it's going to be a disappointment if they don't do that. I mean, that's lofty standards, even by Ohio State's, but that's just the expectation. You got to win a national championship this year, or this season's not going to be considered a success.
This team reminds me a lot of, I think it was the 2001 Miami Hurricanes team, where they were just loaded with unbelievable talent. I don't even know how many Hall of Famers are on that team, let alone great college players. And like you said, may not have a top 5 quarterback, but Ken Dorsey was so surrounded with great players, it was almost impossible for him to not be good. And they had all the same expectations, and unfortunately that team did lose to Ohio State.
Yeah, hopefully different outcome.
Can you see, is there some comparisons to those two teams, or what the level of talent as they're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought of going back that far. I can tell you, in the recent college football history, at least the playoff era, there are a couple of teams that stick out. I mean, 2019 LSU, they had Burrow, they had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Grant Delpit, Jacob Phillips, who was with the Browns for a while there. I'm trying to think, there are a couple other, Cade York.
Tony Gross's favorite player.
The team I think that might be a good comp is 2021 Georgia. That team had 15 players taken in the draft. That's an NFL record from one school. I don't know if Ohio State's going to get there next year, but when you combine, they're going to have a dozen or more guys, taken in the first 3-4 rounds at worst. And then you throw in Jeremiah Smith, and Caleb Downs and guys like that who are not eligible for the draft, but are going to be, I think, top 10 picks at some point. It's pretty hard to compare. I mean, it's pretty hard to match that up against anybody. So they have. I mean, you could make the case they have the best running back duo in college football with Henderson and Judkins. I think that they might have the best receiving core when you factor in Emeka and Jeremiah Smith and Tate. I mean, I don't know if they do, but I think they're in the conversation. And then they probably have a top 5-7 defense at worst. You throw all that together, that's pretty impressive.
Now, speaking of Jeremiah Smith, nationally, what are the expectations for him this year as a freshman? I know I'm a big fan. Obviously, I love to scout, personally, and I think he's going to be one of the best to ever play. I mean, we'll see. He's got to get on the field, but I'm trying to tamper a little expectations here. What are you seeing nationally?
Well, the Buckeyes have had 4 first-round picks in the last 3 drafts at the receiver position. That, by the way, that's the most from one school at a single position, regardless of position in college football. So that Ohio State wide receiver has been arguably the most dominant position of the last 3, 4, 5 years in all of college football. And I think, just based on what I've been told, he has a chance to be the best of all of them. Which,
so exciting.
Think about this. Think about Garrett Wilson, He's going to be a first-round pick in everybody's fantasy draft this month. Chris Olave, go-to guy for the Saints. Smith and Jigba, I think he's going to get. I mean, he had 60-something catches as a rookie, and they didn't feel like they played him that much because they had Lockett and Metcalf. But I think he's going to be a really good player. And then obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., who was a top 5 pick, highest draft pick, wide receiver in Ohio State history, who's probably going to have a monster year with Kyler Murray there in Arizona. So that's a lot. And now we're talking about this kid has a chance to be the best. We'll see if he gets there. But the fact that people are talking about him that way, I think underscores the potential he had. I mean, Smith and Jigba told me this summer that he'd be ready to go to the NFL next year.
That's crazy.
If he wanted to.
He's like Julio Jones.
Now, that's not me saying that's another Ohio State receiver saying. I mean, they watch, they know, they talk, to teammates and coaches there. I mean, they know. So, statistically, I don't have a great sense of what that might look like because there's only one ball. Right. Chip Kelly's going to run the ball. They're going to run the quarterback with Will Howard. Mecca's going to get a lot of targets and deservedly should. But I just think he's going to have a lot of electric plays, even if, maybe there might be some games he has only like 2, 3, 4 catches. They might be, wow, catches. So, he's big time based on everything I've heard. And, in the spring game, he didn't really do much. And then the practices I've been to, it just has not happened to do much. So I'm really interested to see what he looks like in the opener and then going forward this season.
Jake Trotter, college football writer for ESPN Cleveland Teammates, going to be hosting the post-game show for ESPN Cleveland this year. You're going to have a lot of fun with the callers there. I screened the calls last year, Jake. There's a lot of interesting people that try to call into those post-game shows. But
I'll tell you what, it's been an interesting week, Browns news-wise. I mean, now I'm reading that Deshaun Watson's shoulder is a little sore, and they held him out, and they're down a bunch of offensive tackles. It seemed like this training camp was going really well, and just in the last week or so, it's felt like it's gone the other way.
And I think that's what's made it feel longer than usual. I want to get into the Browns here in just 1 second, but you're talking about this great wide receiving core and weapons for Ohio State. You've mentioned the name Will Howard. He is the transfer from Kansas State, graduate transfer to play quarterback. He was named the starter. We know that the Buckeyes and the staff has really liked what they've seen, but what should Buckeye fans know about Will Howard and what they saw at Kansas State and maybe how he's trying to be different now with Ohio State with loftier expectations?
I used to cover the Big 12 back in the day and, have a lot of contacts in that part of the country still. And the perception of Will Howard there is very different than the one I sense that he has up here in Ohio. And I mean, he started 27 games. They won the Big 12 title. Was that 2 years ago, 2022. Yeah. And he's put up big numbers there, but I also have gotten the sense that they weren't super upset that he moved on. They've got a young quarterback, Avery Johnson, pretty highly touted recruit. They're very excited about. So, there were some games where he just didn't have it, especially last season for K-State. I will say, I was there on the first day of practice, and I think they were really pleased with the work that Will Howard put in during the summer. He lost a lot of body fat. Ryan Day said he had more zip on the ball than he did in the spring, which is hard to believe that you could really change it that much in just a couple of months. I noticed that he just looked a little quicker than he did in the spring. And listen, he doesn't have to be Joe Montana. I mean, they've got, like I said, the envy of college football, every position offensively. So, if he just plays his game, they're going to be fine most of the time. He's going to have to make some plays for them to win a national championship. You just can't get there with a game manager. And I think he can be better than that. So is it is this an improved Will Howard than what we saw at Kansas State? I think that's certainly possible. And I think that with Chip Kelly, he's going to want to run the quarterback. And they didn't have that dimension in their game last year with Kyle McCord. They're going to have it this year with Will Howard. And that's just one more thing you got to deal with as a defense. You got to worry about those running backs, the receivers, and now you got to worry about the quarterback run game. That's a lot of stress on a defense. And I think, listen, he's going to have – he has as much help around him as you could possibly imagine as a college quarterback. So, guy that experienced, clearly he's put in the work. I think he could have a big year, but we'll see. Like, he's going to have to show it on the field.
Now that we have Chip Kelly as our offense coordinator, has he changed his the tempo of the offense? Is he still doing that unbelievably fast tempo? And I don't know how they're just line up, play, boom, line up, play. Or that's how they used to. Is that what they're trying to do, or something similar to that?
I don't think, we'll see, right? Like, sometimes tempo, you get kind of surprised by it, like when you watch it in a game. Ryan Day's still the head coach. And I do think that they want to mash people. I think they want to set a physical tone. I think they have the personnel to do that. It's hard to be that type of team that wears out defenses if you're going super fast all the time. So will they have a tempo element? And then, at times, especially in the second half, slow it down, run the ball, wear defenses out. I don't have a great feel for that now. And you got to remember, Chip Kelly, it's 12 years since he was at Oregon. And he's evolved as a coach, and he's going to operate within the confines of Ryan Day's scheme as well. So we'll see. I mean, I think the biggest difference, and tempo could be part of it. I think the biggest difference you're going to see from last year is the quarterback run game, and just the creativity in the running game that they didn't always have last year.
Yeah, I saw that Will Howard actually clocked in as the fastest quarterback on the team, which surprised me for how big he is with, Lincoln Keenholz, who's just a specimen of an athlete, Julian Sayin, and even Devin Brown. He's pretty fast. So that 80-yard run, I think his first or second practice, really set the tone there. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, he ran for a lot of yards. I don't have the stats in front of me, but, he was a true dual threat at Kansas State.
How do the dynamics change this year with the 12-team playoff in your eyes, Jake?
I think that the biggest difference is we're going to have, and this is great for college football, and not so much for Ohio State, but if you're a fan of Penn State, if you're a fan of Nebraska, if you're a fan of Kansas State, Oklahoma, there's going to be more meaningful games in November than we have seen in the past, because there's going to be more paths to the playoff. In the past, really, and I thought this was one of the unintended consequences of the playoff I didn't like, really regionalized college football. So, we get to October 1st, and there's 7 teams that could probably make the playoff at that point. It's Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Notre Dame. I mean, Clemson. There's 6 teams. And then all the focus is on those 6 or 7 teams and, comparing very nuanced differences between the two. And then the committee would decide. I think now what's great is, number one, you can play your way in. We're not going to have a Florida State situation like last year where, you go 13-0, you don't get in. I mean, I understand why the committee didn't put him in, but I think it's a travesty that you could be 13-0 and not be in the playoff.
They should have been in. I can't help but think about what happened with OSU. We lost our quarterback, and Cardell Jones came in and absolutely just destroyed everybody, and they never even got the chance, and they had a perfect record.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so wrong.
Yeah, and I think if the committee could have looked at Ohio State that way in 2014. And didn't. So I think that you can play your way in. So everybody has a shot. Miami of Ohio has a shot in a way that they didn't before. Ohio U has a shot. Now, not much of one, but at least, it's not 0.0 because the group of 5 conference, highest ranked group of 5 conference champion would potentially have, is going to have a spot in the playoff. And then you're going to have Iowa State, Colorado, all of a sudden there's maybe a big game in November. I don't know if they play in November. That's just
one-loss games or one-loss seasons aren't devastating anymore. You'd be halfway through a season, Ohio State loses to Iowa in a fluke game, and your whole season's blown. And it was
that's
horrible.
not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now your path might get tougher because you might have to, you might not get a bye. We might have to go on the road. But I just think, like, in the past, we've had 5 games that felt like that mattered in November. We're going to have 25 games that matter in the context of the playoff. And so I think that's great.
And I think that's what's bringing so much excitement for college football fans. Jake, before we get you out of here, different role for you looking at the Browns. So outside of course, we know quarterback has to play well for this team to do well. They have to figure out the left tackle spot. But outside of those two main storylines that we've all been talking about ad nauseum this training camp season, what is the one key to the Browns that you see outside of those two things for them to truly have another successful season and take a deeper run in the playoffs?
I think the biggest, other than what you mentioned, I think the biggest concern that I would have, and I said this in the spring before some of the injuries kind of piled up, the Browns have had a dominant offensive line since 2020. And I could see some cracks in that foundation, starting to show a little bit last year. Joel Bitonio was so banged up. He's getting older. Still a great player. He's getting older. Jack Conklin, can't stay healthy. Jedrick Wills was actually playing the best ball of his career, for the Browns before he got hurt. But now, when is he coming back, right? So the offensive line, and then I think maybe the biggest factor is Bill Callahan's gone. That guy was an absolute wizard. They would lose, they'd suffer injuries, and then they would sign a guy like never heard of before. That guy would play left tackle, and it was like you didn't even notice it.
Some guy named Blake.
Yep.
Some guy named
that
Blake.
Was Bill, every year, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know that they're going to have that magic elixir without Bill Callahan that they've had in the past, and you're starting to see it in training camp so far. So the combination of the offensive line potentially not being as dominant, coupled with the running back position just not being what it's been. There's no Nick Chubb. There will be a Nick Chubb, but maybe not the same Nick Chubb, and certainly not Nick Chubb out of the gate. That Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt duo, they just don't have that quality of backs. And losing Callahan, questions with the offensive line, the running back talent is not what it's been. Are they going to be able to run the ball? And then if they can't, what does that mean for Deshaun Watson and the passing game? So, I think ultimately there's going to be, I see there being a lot more pressure on Watson to produce. How's he going to handle that? He hasn't handled that well in a Browns uniform. He's going to have to handle it well, I think, for them to get to where they want to go and certainly get to the playoffs. So that is kind of what I am watching, especially that Dallas game, as they're trying to kind of reacclimate everybody. Can they run the ball? And if they can't, is Watson going to be good enough for them to overcome that? I don't know. But the defense is going to be dominant. MJ Emerson, been saying it since his rookie year. He's an absolute superstar. JOK is great. I think Delpit's going to be really good again, coming back healthy. Miles changes everything. He's, after Patrick Mahomes, maybe the best player in the NFL.
Yeah.
So they defensively, I think, going to be great. But, they went 6-2 in last possession games last year. Or was it one-score games or field goal, whatever the stat was.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to replicate. And you lose a couple of those, and all of a sudden, you're 9-8. You're not 11-5 or 11-6. So we'll see what happens. But, they have the pieces to be right there. It's just a question of whether this all comes together. But, yeah, Myles Garrett, you're going to win a lot of games. That's a pretty high floor.
All right. We're going to get off sports. You're not from Cleveland originally. I think you're from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, yes.
In Cleveland, usually, I don't know nationally what people think. It seems like it gets a bad rap. After living here for so long, what is something about Cleveland that you learned about that you did not know about at all before you got here?
And other people should know that aren't from here.
Okay, so when I first realized we were moving here, I didn't know really. I did live in Middletown, Ohio, which is kind of by Cincinnati, out of college, my first step out of college. But as you guys know, Cleveland and Cincinnati, Dayton, and even Columbus are 3 different states. Or at least it feels like that to me. So I didn't really know a lot about Cleveland. And then, find out we're moving here. So I remember we had some friends over, let's YouTube Cleveland and see what comes up. And it was crazy. It was like the commercial. You've seen those, We're Not Detroit commercial.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
the Balloon Fest of 1986. Which
Yeah.
if you don't know about that, you got to check that. Obviously, the 10-cent beer night, the Cuyahoga River catching on fire. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this seems kind of like a crazy place to move to. But the one biggest surprise, you think of Cleveland as an outsider, you think, all right, like steel town, factories, the parks here are unbelievable. And I was like blown away by that when we first moved here. I was not expecting that at all. We love the Metro Park system. We live pretty close to a couple of them. We use them all the time, and it's great. And it like is a very nature outdoorsy oriented community, the city. And I was not expecting that at all. So that was definitely a pleasant surprise. And I remember, so when I got to know Phil Savage a little bit, he was in the college football world, former Browns GM. And, I actually called him, not about the Browns, like what should I know about moving to Cleveland? And he said the Metro Parks. He told, and I was like, I never heard of that. And he was definitely right. I mean, the Metro Parks are awesome. So
yeah, I'm a big hiker, and I've done over 1,300 miles this year, and I'm in the Metro Parks every day. They're amazing. So,
look at you.
Yeah,
good for you.
So
I have not done that many miles.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm actually
obsessed.
from the exact same neighborhood as Tony Grossi. He graduated with my mom in high school, and there was like inner city Cleveland. There's not really a whole lot of metro parks, if we're being honest. It's real condensed cities. And then we moved to Garfield Heights, and right next to the metro parks. I would have thought I lived in the biggest woods in the world. Like I thought it was a national park next to my house. I was like, this is amazing.
You feel like you're in like Idaho.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
or
Really
something
lucky.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. I mean, I live pretty close to Manakiki, which I know is one of Grossi's favorite courses to play, and then North Chagrin reservations right by our house too. And it just seems like that's just it is us, and everybody wants to talk Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but there is so much more in it.
Which, by the way, is awesome too.
Yes.
The
Absolutely.
hall is great.
I mean, we do have one of the world's largest freshwater lakes in the entire world next to it. It's a great lake, just saying.
And the food's great, so just come to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody come on to Cleveland like Jake did.
I never had a pierogi before we moved here. I didn't know.
Really?
What that
You're
was.
welcome.
What'd you think?
No idea. So, yeah, I love them. Yeah.
I'm probably the one Clevelander that doesn't like pierogies.
We
I don't know
found
why.
out.
I mean, can you even eat them with your allergies?
Probably not now, but I had them before I had the food allergies. So, you know.
Dude, I'm like Tommy Boy. I can take them dozen at a time. I just get them lodged right in this region.
Well, Jake Trotter, ESPN college football writer, ESPN Cleveland teammate, is going to be hosting the post-game show.
Being annoyed by my calls,
Yes,
for sure.
being annoyed by Jay and Ryan and everybody else.
Hey, at least I won't be
Not
drunk
good.
when I call in.
That's
I'm not
always-
concerned. I can take all of it. Paul, on the other hand, I'm not sure, but I'll be able to handle it.
Paul's my son. I named that boy.
Well, Jake, thank you so much for taking the time tonight to join us. A lot of great insight. We'd love to touch base with you again during the college football season. If you have the time, know how busy you are. I'm sure I'll see you around the office, but love to touch base on here as well.
Yeah, I'm
Jake.
sorry I made you look at Kevin's face more. You already got to see him at work enough. My apologies.
All right.
It was nice meeting you, Jake.
Jake, thank you so much. That
See you
is
guys.
Jake Trotter of ESPN college football writer. Make sure to catch his stuff throughout the year. Jay's on the screen twice. I can't hear anybody anymore. I don't know what happened. It doesn't really matter because the show is over. So
Great show, guys. Great show.
Great show.
Yeah, it was good.
Absolutely great show. Great insight tonight. I know a lot of people learned a lot tonight. I can hear you guys muffled. But that's the beauty of doing live stuff. And we made it all the way to the end before that stuff happened. So for Always Positive Jay, Ryan Mosser, Peter Tulip, Jacob Tulip, hey, get out. High school football starts this Friday. Actually, there's some high schools probably playing tomorrow. I know Chardon is in Orlando, Florida. They're playing a big team in Florida tomorrow night. Get out to your local high schools. Enjoy Friday night lights, Friday night football. Football is back in Ohio, and good luck to all of the student athletes, the cheerleaders, the band members, the parent groups, schools, all of the other sports programs in the fall. We wish you all the best of luck. We want to spotlight you if we possibly can throughout the fall seasons. I'm Kevin Earl, reminding all of you, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. We love you all, 3,000.
Don't talk about it. Be about it.
Life's a garden. Dig it.
and live life all gas, no breaks. We'll see you next time right here on the Voice of the Land on the Big Play Network and Be On Air Podcast Network.